It's the greatest demonetization event in human history. Basically, all fiat will die all at the same time, very rapidly, and everyone just wants Bitcoin and transacts in Bitcoin.
Really?
But I think monetary systems, especially when you're dealing with a 100x improvement over the old system and even over gold, it's not a gradual taper, it's just a flip of the switch. Everyone's just going to switch to this new thing. If you look at everything, the entire macroeconomic landscape, you can see that 1 million is actually really conservative for this year.
Yeah.
A 10x is just pretty conservative.
In this explosive interview, Samson Mow lays out one of the most urgent cases for Bitcoin we've ever heard. He says the global fiat system isn't just in trouble, it's in freefall. From Japan's desperate interventions to stabilize the yen, to the UK's bond market crises, and Canada's dollar behaving like a meme coin, Mao argues we're witnessing the final stages of fiat currency as we know it. He doesn't believe Bitcoin will gradually replace fiat. He sees a flip of the switch moment coming, what he calls the greatest demonetization event in human history. And he warns, when that moment arrives, there will be no time left to prepare. Stick around to the end to hear why Samson believes $1 million Bitcoin is not just possible, it's conservative, and why most people still have no idea what's coming. Also guys, if you like our cryptocurrency content, please remember to like and subscribe to stay up to date. Now, over to Samson.
Hyper-Bitcoinization is the point at which we no longer convert Bitcoin into fiat. There's only Bitcoin left. So it's the end state, really. And you could say it's hyperinflation of the dollar, really. Right? When a dollar hyperinflates, then no one's going to want the dollar. They will just want Bitcoin. So yeah, it's the greatest demonetization event in human history. Basically, all fiat will die all at the same time, very rapidly, and everyone just wants Bitcoin and transacts in Bitcoin.
Really? It's just, so you don't see a world where the dollar and Bitcoin can coexist?
I don't see it, but a lot of Bitcoiners do see it. I think Saylor is one of those. Like, if you look at his Bitcoin 24 model, right? He actually tapers off the model after a number of years to kind of slow the death of Bitcoin, slow the death of fiat. So Bitcoin growth tapers off. But I think monetary systems, especially when you're dealing with a 100x improvement over the old system and even over gold, it's not a gradual taper, it's just a flip of the switch. Everyone's just going to switch to this new thing. I don't see that happening in Bitcoin, and we didn't even see that happen with the devaluation of the German mark. It wasn't that it slowly tapered off, and there was one baker in this village over there that was still taking the mark, 5 years later, because that network effect of that money dies. So maybe some people have it in a drawer, but no one's actually going to exchange anything for the mark.
And I mean, that's going to be a pretty big impact on the world, right?
That's why we're working on getting Bitcoin adoption out there as fast as we can to soften the fall.
Okay.
It's like the Foundation series, right?
Yeah.
You can't stop the fall, although we can soften the fall.
and it's going to radically change the world.
Samson Mow argues that the collapse of fiat money will mark a profound shift in global power, away from governments and toward individuals. That's why institutions like the IMF fear Bitcoin. As a fiat-based organization, the IMF even issues its own synthetic currency, the SDR, which it can create out of thin air. But in a Bitcoin standard, that power vanishes, unless they choose to adapt. Mao believes there's a deeper motive behind the IMF's pressure on El Salvador. He compares the IMF to a global loan shark, keeping developing nations locked into cycles of debt. Bitcoin disrupts that system by offering financial sovereignty. So when El Salvador defied the warnings and adopted Bitcoin, the IMF demanded concessions, not to protect the country, but to save face after loudly predicting failure. But the victory was mostly symbolic. El Salvador still holds Bitcoin as a reserve. It's still legal to use for transactions, and there are no capital gains tax on its use. The IMF may have secured headlines, but Bitcoin's core position remains unchanged. As Mao puts it, their win was about optics, not substance. Still, he emphasizes that the real challenge lies ahead. Government adoption is only the beginning. The real transformation depends on grassroots adoption. Many Salvadorans still don't understand Bitcoin, and education remains a major hurdle. For Bitcoin to truly succeed, the bottom-up movement must take hold.
What are the implications of essentially fiat ending? Because it's going to be essentially a change in the balance of power between the state and the individual. And I think there's very, very deep implications there. But what do you think were the motivations behind the IMF asking for those concessions from El Salvador? Are they scared of Bitcoin, Samson?
I think the IMF is definitely scared of Bitcoin because they are a fiat organization. For those people that don't know, they have their own shitcoin. It's called the
SDR.
Yeah, SDR, Strategic Drawing Rights, which means they can just kind of print their own money out of thin air too. But with Bitcoin, they're irrelevant, or they need to adopt Bitcoin. It's their choice. Either you adapt or you die. But I think there's another darker angle here, which is they're basically a loan shark. Their job is to lend money in perpetuity to countries like El Salvador and, developing places around the world. And this kind of puts them out of a job. So I think they had to fight for that, or they wanted to save face, because remember, they made a big stink about all the Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador, that, you're going to fail, it's dangerous and whatnot. And when they're wrong and they're incorrect and the metrics prove them incorrect, vastly incorrect, I think they need something to save face. So maybe they insisted on these concessions just so they can say, yes, we got something.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way. It definitely felt that way because it was like, haha, we won. But it's what you said with the analogy of the glass, right? It really depends on how you look at it. But the most important aspects, there's no capital gains implications.
Yeah.
You could still use it as money. They're still buying it as reserve. So did they really win? Right? It's like an optics. It was for the optics more than the substance.
Yeah.
From my perspective.
And as you said, it doesn't really matter because that's kind of government top-down adoption is icing on the cake. The real important part is the grassroots adoption. And I think that still needs work too. We should not be lying to ourselves and say, yeah, it's perfect already. We've got, educational initiatives and we're good here. There's still a lot of people here in El Salvador that have no idea. And we still have a lot of work to do.
Samson Mow says he never imagined Bitcoin's rise would unfold this quickly, or this dramatically. What started as a niche experiment has become a full-blown global movement, with nation-states like China trying to ban it, and others like El Salvador making it legal tender. The pace? Blistering. 16 years may feel like a long time inside the space, but from a historical perspective, Mow says it's the blink of an eye. Looking ahead, he sees hyper-Bitcoinization not in decades, but within just 5 to 10 years. Why? Because fiat currencies are collapsing faster than expected. The US is drowning in $36 trillion of debt. The Canadian dollar is trading like a meme coin. Japan's yen is on life support despite multiple Bank of Japan interventions. And the UK? Its bond market is back in crises again, just a year after nearly hitting dollar parity. According to Mao, these are the headwinds facing fiat. And when you pair that with Bitcoin's unstoppable tailwinds, a $1 million US price tag doesn't sound radical, it sounds conservative. A 10x from here? He thinks that's just the beginning.
When you got into the industry and, when you first bought Bitcoin, could you ever have imagined what is happening today?
No.
No.
No. I think it's, everything's happened faster and in a much more spectacular way than I imagined. That's why I'm really bullish, because I'm kind of bullish and then my expectations are beat and I try to reset them and then they're beat yet again. But everything's happening so much faster. Like the China ban was a nation state attack. Then you have El Salvador and nation state adoption. The timeline is definitely way faster, right? It's 16 years and being in it, you kind of lose your perspective. But if you step back a bit and you try to look at it from afar, it's like, that's the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
The rapid pace at which we have grown as a community, as an asset class, and as a technology for money. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely. It's been a hell of a roller coaster ride. I don't think I would want to work anywhere else. I'm sure you feel exactly the same way. Final question, what excites you the most about Bitcoin for the next 5 to 10 years?
Watching hyper-Bitcoinization unfold. I think it's 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. I don't think fiat can hold out that long. So I mentioned all the tailwinds that we have. This is happening at the same time the fiat system is facing headwinds, right? $36 trillion in debt in the US. Every other country is massively in debt with a really crazy debt to GDP ratio. The fiat currencies are failing. Canadian dollar, I don't know if you're watching it, but it's trading like a shitcoin. As with a lot of other fiat currencies, the yen is dying, right? Last year, there were so many Bank of Japan interventions to push it from 160 down to 150-ish, and it's back now. How much more firepower do they have? And at what point does that stop working completely? In the UK, last year, the pound almost reached parity with the dollar, which is crazy. The government bonds were in crisis. The Bank of England had to intervene. And maybe people are not paying attention now because there's so much other stuff going on. But the government bonds in the UK, the gilts, they are again in crisis. So if you look at everything, the entire macroeconomic landscape, you can see that 1 million is actually really conservative for this year.
Yeah.
A 10x is just pretty conservative.
Samson Mow isn't predicting a slow, steady shift. He's warning of a sudden monetary reset. As fiat currencies crumble under the weight of debt, inflation, and political mismanagement, Bitcoin stands ready to absorb the collapse. This isn't just a financial revolution. It's a once-in-a-generation transition to a sound global money. The signs are everywhere. Governments are scrambling, central banks are cornered, and most people have no idea how fast this change is coming. Mal believes there won't be a second chance to position yourself. When the flip happens, it'll be too late to react. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments section below.